This is the story of Tiffany Wade, a 40-year-old woman from Philadelphia who seemed to have it all. She was beautiful, smart, and a pillar of her community. But her life was cut short by a man from her past, her 44-year-old ex-husband, Armand Hilton. And the tragic end to her story happened right in front of her child. To really understand what happened, we have to start with Tiffany. She wasn't just a name in a headline. She was a vibrant person, a mother, and someone who worked hard for everything she had. Tiffany grew up in Philly, in a home where she was always encouraged to go after her goals. From a young age, people were drawn to her. She had a big, warm smile and a natural kindness that made people feel comfortable. Her childhood was happy. She was always busy with school activities and was a great student. Her teachers knew her as the smart, dedicated kid who always did her best. At home, her family was everything. They were a tight-knit group that celebrated all the little victories in life. As she got older, Tiffany's natural grace and sense of style started getting her noticed around the city. She knew how to put an outfit together, but more importantly, she knew how to talk to people and make friends easily. Before long, she became a familiar face at fundraisers and charity events in Philadelphia's social scene. Her elegance and warm personality made her stand out in any room. But Tiffany was much more than just a socialite who went to parties. She genuinely wanted to use her influence to help people. She was deeply involved in charity work, whether it was volunteering at local schools, raising money for the homeless, or speaking up about important health issues. If there was a good cause, Tiffany was there, ready to help. One of her proudest moments came when she was just 20 years old. She graduated from nursing school, becoming a registered nurse. She was the youngest person in her class at Methodist Hospital Nursing School. One of her friends from that time remembered her joking about it, saying she was old enough to legally give patients strong pain medicine, but not yet old enough to legally buy a drink. That was Tiffany, driven, accomplished, and with a great sense of humor. Her reputation grew, not just because of her looks or social status, but because people could see she truly cared about making a difference. She was featured in local magazines and asked to speak at events, inspiring others with her story. Outside of her busy public life, she had a rich inner world. She loved the arts, theater, art shows, and music of all kinds, from classical to modern pop. Friends would often gather at her home, which was always filled with good conversation, laughter, and music. She was also an avid reader. Staying healthy was also a big priority for her. She practiced yoga, went hiking, and jogged to keep her energy up for her demanding schedule. She was the kind of person who motivated her friends to get active and take care of themselves too. Above all else, though, Tiffany's greatest joy was being a mother. She absolutely adored her children and celebrated them every chance she got, both online and in person. She and her son were especially close. They were a team, whether they were out exploring the city or just spending quiet time at home. To her, being a mom was the most important job in the world. So when you picture Tiffany Wade, picture a life full of purpose. She built her success from the ground up, stayed true to her roots in Philly, and showed everyone around her what it means to be kind, work hard, and give back. Her story is about a life lived to the fullest, one that left a positive mark on so many people. Now let's talk about Armand Hilton. His life started very differently from Tiffany's. He grew up in a rough part of town, where making bad choices was easy to do. That environment shaped him, and he got into serious trouble early on. Court records show that back in March of 2002, when he was a younger man, he and 2 other people were involved in the kidnapping of a 17-year-old boy. This wasn't a minor mistake. It was a serious, violent crime that landed him in prison for a long time. So you have these 2 people from completely different worlds. How did their paths cross? It happened after Armand was released from prison. He was trying to start over, and a friend encouraged him to attend a local event in Philadelphia. That's where he met Tiffany. She was there doing what she did best, mingling, supporting a cause, and lighting up the room. Despite their opposite backgrounds, they felt a connection. Tiffany was drawn to his story of wanting to change his life, of trying to find redemption, and Armand was captivated by her. She was kind, successful, and saw something in him that others didn't. They started dating, and soon they were a couple. Tiffany introduced Armand to her world of galas and business events, and he shared his own life experiences with her. It felt like a fresh start for both of them. Their romance moved fast, and they eventually had a big wedding, celebrated by many in their community. As a married couple, they seemed like a power duo. They went into business together, combining Tiffany's skill with business and Armand's drive. They invested in a popular cafe and got into real estate. On the surface, it looked like a success story. A man turning his life around with the help of a loving, successful woman. But behind closed doors, things weren't so perfect. The pressures of managing their finances and their different ways of handling problems started to create a lot of tension. Arguments about money and expectations became more and more common, putting a heavy strain on their relationship. Tiffany tried to be supportive, but Armand struggled with deep-seated insecurities and a fear of failing again. The hope and love that started their story began to get tangled up in stress and old wounds that never fully healed. And even though they tried, the challenges they faced were slowly pulling their marriage apart. No one knew it at the time, but these cracks in their relationship were the beginning of a path that would lead to a terrible, tragic end. The problems in Tiffany and Armand's marriage ran deep, and they started long before he went to prison. Armand's life had been a series of run-ins with the law. He had a long criminal record that included everything from theft and drug possession to armed robbery. It was a pattern of behavior that was hard to break, and it cast a dark shadow over their life together. When they first met, Tiffany truly believed Armand could change. She saw the good in him and hoped that her love and support would be enough to help him leave his past behind. They started their life together with a lot of hope. But as time went on and Armand kept finding trouble, that hope started to fade. It's incredibly difficult to build a stable life with someone who is constantly at risk of being arrested. Eventually, Armand's past caught up with him in a big way. He was sent to prison for several years, and that physical separation created a huge divide between them. For Tiffany, it was a painful and lonely time. Imagine trying to keep up your public image as a successful, put-together socialite, all while privately dealing with the fact that your husband is incarcerated. She had to navigate the judgment from others while managing her own feelings of disappointment and heartache. Their communication broke down, and the emotional connection they once had began to wear thin. For Armand, prison was a harsh reality check. Being locked away gave him a lot of time to think about the choices he'd made and how they had damaged his marriage. He was cut off from the world, and he missed out on years of life with his family. He knew his actions had pushed Tiffany away, and he wrestled with the guilt of it all. He dreamed of getting out and making things right, but he had no idea if that was even possible anymore. The situation became even more complicated because while Armand was away, Tiffany's life kept moving forward. She had to. She was a mother with a career and a life to lead. She started building a new future for herself and her children, a future that didn't revolve around waiting for him. When Armand was finally released, he stepped out into a world that was completely different from the one he had left. The hardest truth he had to face was that Tiffany had moved on. The woman he loved wasn't just waiting for him, she was thriving on her own. This was a massive blow to his pride. Making things even worse were the financial issues. According to reports from people who knew the situation, Armand, who also went by the nickname Speedy, felt that Tiffany had done him wrong. The story goes that before he went to prison, he had put some properties in Tiffany's name for safekeeping. When he got out, he discovered that she had divorced him and married another man. In his mind, she had not only left him, but she had taken his assets with her. This combination of feeling betrayed financially and romantically was a recipe for disaster. Armand's jealousy began to spiral out of control. Seeing Tiffany happy with someone else, living a life that he felt should have been his, filled him with a rage that he couldn't manage. His efforts to reconnect with her were unsuccessful. Tiffany was understandably cautious. The trust between them had been broken too many times. As Armand's anger grew, his behavior became more and more alarming. Tiffany started to feel unsafe. She even began posting cryptic messages on her social media accounts, hinting to her friends and followers that she was in a dangerous situation with her ex. Friends who were close to her noticed that Armand was becoming increasingly controlling and aggressive.
I snap on it because I look at you different. Why the fuck did you worry about my baby mom? I don't give it. Yo, if you ever was the talk nigga, she'd tell you that.
I would never talk to that bitch. That bitch ain't on my level. She ain't the fuck nothing to me. And she never been in my circle. She never been around me. I didn't know that bitch.
And you've been bringing it up. So now I'm going to give you what you want. I'm never going to touch you again. I'm never physically going to hurt you. You marry this nigga, I'm going to get off on everything I love. I'm going back to prison on everything. I don't give a fuck about that. I told you stop throwing it in my face. If this is what you want to do, go in and do it. Stop throwing it in my face. All right. I just left you 2 months ago. Stop throwing it in my face before I... This is what I'm telling you because that's what my mindset. I will go there.
The final breaking point had come before he even went to prison, after a particularly bad argument that had turned violent. That was when Tiffany knew she had to leave for her own safety and for the well-being of her son. Leaving was not an easy choice, but with the support of her friends and family, she started to rebuild her life. She was getting her spark back, focusing on her career and her kids. But Armand couldn't accept it. He began to harass her, showing up at her home unannounced and sending her threatening messages. His obsession grew, and he started stalking her. He was fixated on what he had lost and who he blamed it for. And that brings us to the day of October 7th. It was a normal Saturday afternoon. Tiffany took her son to a local barber shop in West Philadelphia for a haircut. It was a simple, everyday errand, the kind of thing a mother and son do together all the time. The shop was a neighborhood spot, a place with a comfortable, familiar feel. The sound of clippers, the smell of aftershave, and the quiet chatter of customers filled the air.
Tiffany and her son sat down, waiting their turn, just like everyone else. She had no way of knowing that she had been followed. She had no idea that Armand was nearby, his mind twisted by jealousy and a desire for revenge. At around 1:45 in the afternoon, the everyday peace of the barber shop was shattered. The door opened, and Armand Hilton walked inside. In front of her son and a room full of strangers, he approached Tiffany. He pulled out a gun and shot her multiple times in the head and body. In the chaos that followed, he grabbed some of her belongings before running out of the shop, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. The first call to 911 came in just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon on October 7th. The caller reported a shooting inside a barber shop on West Lehigh Avenue in North Philadelphia. When police officers arrived, they found a scene of chaos and panic. Inside the shop, they located a woman on the floor who was not responding. She had been shot, and sadly, there was nothing that could be done to save her. To understand how this happened, we have to go back just a few minutes before that 911 call was made. Armand Hilton had been tracking Tiffany. Consumed by anger, he had followed her to the barber shop. He knew she was inside with their son, and he had decided this was where he would confront her. The normal, relaxed atmosphere of the shop was shattered when Armand burst through the door. He wasn't there for a haircut. His eyes scanned the room until they locked on Tiffany. A tense silence fell over the shop as everyone realized something was terribly wrong. Witnesses said he immediately started yelling at her. His words were a torrent of accusations and threats. He was filled with rage, blaming her for everything that had gone wrong in his life. He screamed about the properties he believed she had stolen from him, and about her moving on with a new man while he was in prison. Tiffany, seeing the look on his face, instinctively tried to shield her son, pulling the boy close to her. She pleaded with Armand to calm down, to just leave them alone. But he was too far gone to listen. The situation turned from a loud argument into a terrifying crisis in a matter of seconds. Armand reached into his coat and pulled out a gun. The sight of the weapon sent a wave of panic through the small shop. People screamed and dove for cover, trying to get away from the unfolding nightmare. With his hand shaking from rage, he raised the gun and pointed it directly at Tiffany. For a brief, chilling moment, the yelling stopped, and then he pulled the trigger. The gunshot was deafening in the small space. Tiffany fell to the floor. The police and paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. The woman they found was identified as 40-year-old Tiffany Wade. She was pronounced dead right there at the scene, having been shot in the head and torso. Her life was taken in a place she should have been safe, right in front of her child. In the confusion, Armand ran from the barber shop, leaving behind a scene of absolute devastation. It didn't take long for the police to know who they were looking for. The witnesses were clear. The man who had shot Tiffany was her ex-husband, 44-year-old Armand Hilton. A manhunt was launched immediately, and he was captured by authorities a short time later. He was taken into custody and faced charges including murder for what he had done.
So, what could possibly drive a person to do something so horrific? While we can never truly know what was going on in his mind, we can look at the circumstances. Armand had a long history of making bad decisions. His time in prison, instead of helping him, seems to have only deepened his feelings of anger and resentment. He likely felt a twisted sense of ownership over Tiffany, believing that if he couldn't have her, no one could. Experts who study these kinds of crimes often point to a dangerous mix of factors. For Armand, being an ex-convict trying to fit back into society was likely very difficult. He may have felt isolated and that the world had moved on without him. When you combine that feeling of desperation with his financial problems and his intense jealousy over Tiffany's new life, you get a perfect storm of rage that ultimately exploded in violence. But while we can try to understand the why, it doesn't change the devastating impact of his actions. The most heartbreaking part of this story is the effect it had on Tiffany's son. He had to watch his own father murder his mother. The trauma of seeing something so violent is unimaginable for anyone, let alone a child. He not only lost his mother, but now has to carry the horrifying memory of her final moments for the rest of his life. The road to healing for him will be incredibly long, and will require a huge amount of love and professional support. Tiffany's entire family was shattered by her death. They remembered her not as a victim in a news story, but as a bright, loving person who brought so much joy to their lives. They spoke of her generosity and her vibrant spirit. She was a true hustler in the best sense of the word. Beyond being a nurse and a socialite, she was a successful business owner. She had her own hair salon, a hair extension business, a catering company, and even a home healthcare service. She flipped houses and had her own brands of CBD and other products. She had built an incredible life for herself and her children. Her family's grief was mixed with anger. They condemned what Armand had done and demanded justice for Tiffany. In the days and weeks after the tragedy, the community rallied around them. Friends, neighbors, and even people who had never met her organized fundraisers and events to support her children and help with the unexpected costs. This incredible outpouring of support showed just how many lives Tiffany had touched. It was a clear sign of the love and respect people had for her, a testament to the person she was. And as people tried to make sense of this senseless act, it forced a much bigger, much more difficult conversation. Tiffany's story is a tragic example of where domestic violence can lead. It's a problem that affects so many people, but often stays hidden behind closed doors. When we hear the term domestic violence, we often think of physical harm, but it's so much more than that. It can start in very subtle ways. It can be emotional, with one person constantly putting the other down, making them feel worthless. It can be psychological, with someone trying to control every aspect of their partner's life, who they see, where they go, what they wear. It can even be financial, where one person controls all the money, leaving the other with no independence and no way to leave.
These are the warning signs, the red flags that something is deeply wrong. If you see a friend who suddenly seems scared of their partner, who makes excuses for bruises, or who has become isolated from everyone they used to hang out with, it's important to pay attention. The emotional damage from this kind of abuse can be just as deep and long-lasting as any physical injury. So what can be done? If you or someone you know is in a situation like this, it's crucial to know that there is help available. There are hotlines you can call, shelters you can go to, and organizations that are dedicated to helping people find a way out safely. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is one of the most well-known, and they offer completely confidential support around the clock. They can help you make a safety plan, find a local shelter, and connect you with people who can help. Shelters are more than just a safe place to sleep. They provide support like counseling and legal help. They can even help people get back on their feet with job training and childcare assistance. Friends and family are also a critical part of the support system. If someone trusts you enough to tell you they are being abused, the most important thing you can do is believe them. Listen without judging and offer your unconditional support. Leaving an abusive relationship is incredibly difficult and can be the most dangerous time for a victim. They need to know they have people they can count on. Tiffany's death also pushed for change on a larger scale. Tragedies like this often shine a light on where our laws and support systems need to be better. Advocacy groups are constantly fighting for stronger protection orders, more funding for shelters, and better training for law enforcement so they can recognize the danger signs. One key area of focus is on strangulation. Experts have found that when an abuser strangles their partner, it is a major predictor of future more severe violence. It's a huge red flag that the person is capable of killing. As a result, many states have made strangulation a more serious felony, which helps get dangerous abusers off the streets. Before we finish, it's important that we remember Tiffany for who she was, not just for how her life ended. She was so much more than a victim. She was a vibrant, kind, and generous person. She was a brilliant entrepreneur who built several successful businesses from the ground up. She was a loving mother who adored her children. She was a loyal friend and a beloved member of her community. Her story is a painful reminder of the real-life cost of domestic violence, but we can honor her memory by learning from what happened and by committing to do better. We can learn to recognize the signs of abuse and take them seriously. We can support the people in our lives and in our communities who need help. And we can raise our voices to demand change so that resources are available and laws are in place to protect people. We all have a part to play in preventing tragedies like this one. Educate yourself, talk to your friends and family about this issue, and don't be afraid to speak up if you see something wrong. If you or anyone you know is in immediate danger, your first call should always be to 911. Your safety is the most important thing. Let's honor Tiffany's memory by working to create a world where no one has to live in fear. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Not afraid to be yourself and follow your own heart. In so many amazing ways, you're one of a kind. And your Wednesday birthday, that's one of a kind too. Yeah.
Sister. Huh?
What? I got two.
Open this window.
Oh, this is Drea. Drea got so drunk. Natural,
Yes.
powerful, beautiful. This Drea too. This Dion.
Right.
3D RP. This is so nice. Look at this. Oh my God. Look at that.
That's what I said.
That is so nice. I gotta do her whole thing. Look at Grandma.
What is it?
Oh yeah, I know who got that. Some lady.
That was Dion. She's with Shakia.
Some lady with a red.
Oh, this is so nice. Look at that. Y'all see her?
Yeah,
Hey, Mom.
she told me who
Look
got
at the girl.
Give me mine.
This is the first one I opened up. A mother's love is unconditional. Y'all see it? Stop playing with my mom.
And so you just did all that from that thing?
Girl, it's
Huh?
not yours.
And this.
All right,
Open it.
open this.
Because I opened some of the.
I don't know who got this, but they had the wrong birthday party. Because this is not the birthday. This right here was not on Demi eating breakfast. This was not on none of the birthday stuff. Did you see that anywhere? No. So this is from Inky Bay, Akila Binky. And it say a lot. But this was wrong. Thanks for money.
This is from a lot of people that I already opened, but.
And this is more gift cards. To Tiffany from Tiffany. Victoria's Secret. To Samina. $100. Thank you very much.
Then you got
Thank you
another
very much.
something from somebody.
And then this came out of a couple cards. Me did, because these kids, they still. Okay. You got to get your money wise right there. You probably stole some of the money already.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Vine. I'm a perfume. Everybody know I love perfume.
You could see it in her shirt.
You got the money in your shirt?
No.
The Vine. Monts Blanc. Signature collection. What else you got? Pass me some more.
You opened it.
Flower bomb. Pass me some of the stuff that I opened because I didn't open it on here.
Okay.
Oh, Tom Ford.
I thought if you didn't want to. If you didn't know
And
who
this
it
is
was
like
from.
a little collection. I know who this from. This is from Shelly Rose. Feliz. Oh, she's Spanish a little bit. Okay. Feliz Capianos, boo. You've reached a great milestone in life. Hope to hang out again. Thank you for the invite.